and Lee for joining me to discuss about diversity, equity and inclusion, sort of policies and practices in the events industry. You're both from HBAA, who you're going to tell us about, but you're partners of the Business Visits Events Partnership. So it'd be really interesting to hear what your thoughts are on DEI. So welcome, and over to you to tell us a bit about yourselves first.
Thank you, Caroline. So my name is Lee Cowlishaw, as Caroline said, so Consultant Exec Director at the HBAA.
And I'm Juliette Price, and along with Lee, we are part of the leadership team at HBAA, which is a not-for-profit trade body specialising in the meetings, events and accommodation sector. Our member organisations are agencies who procure, create and manage business meetings and events on behalf of their corporate clients, along with the other side of our membership, which covers the hotels, venues and service departments they work with.
Thanks very much. I mean, so why diversity, equity, inclusion? What does it mean to HBAA?
Well, we work in a wonderfully diverse industry that welcomes talented people regardless of their background and beliefs. And for HBAA, having a formal label such as DEI, well, it helps us expansion of ethical and inclusive behaviours as best practice.
Thank you. You froze a little bit there, but I think we got what you actually said. So, which relates to why diversity, equity, inclusion is relevant to the agencies and venues. I mean, you're an association, so it makes it complicated, doesn't it? Because you're not employing people. A lot of DEI is focused on an organisation, a business.
Yeah, and you're quite right, Caroline, but the way that HBAA positions it is that in order to flourish as a trade body and to remain relevant to our members, we recognise the need to promote an inclusive approach to business and relationships. And that also supports the corporate sector, for whom ethical business practices are absolutely key when choosing to work with service providers and suppliers.
Yeah. So do you have any policies, or whatever you call it, different terms, for your membership, and how do you encourage them to adopt that approach that you're so well articulating?
Well, we have a specific document, which is the association's Terms of Ethics, and that highlights our own statement on DEI, which is: we are a diverse association which opposes discrimination, inequality and injustice, and we are proud to represent and promote equal opportunities and equality for all. And every member of HBAA signs up to our code of practice, signs up to our Terms of Ethics, which contains that statement as a condition of their membership. And then they can display our Terms of Ethics logo on their websites, on their emails, and when responding to tenders, to really push the message out.
So it isn't just words, is it? It's actions as well. So how do you encourage? It's not like your own company where you can have a full programme of activities and evaluate it. How do you encourage your members to take positive action?
Well, the association has formed, through our volunteers in membership, a diversity, equity and inclusion board. And that board leads and supports on all aspects of our Terms of Ethics. And that board are currently working on a variety of projects, but if I could just kind of highlight some of the key ones in relation to DEI. They're working on developing guiding principles for the association members. They're working on a buddying system which will welcome new members, and which within that welcome it will promote our DEI policies. And they are also reviewing our upcoming events to ensure consistency in our DEI values. And another way that we as an organisation advance DEI practices is that as part of our own procurement policy, we also insist on seeing the association's potential suppliers and sponsors, we insist on seeing their own DEI policies to ensure they have them in place and that they dovetail with our own.
So that's quite a challenge, isn't it? And what challenges have you had any resistance to that approach, and what do you see as your sort of main challenges?
Shall I take this one,
Yeah.
Julie? Okay, yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen any challenges. I think we set out our expectations from the offset in terms of what our DEI statement outlines and what our expectations are. So, you know, if people do want to work with us, and as Juliet mentioned, in terms of a term of membership, we feel that that's a very fair statement that actually can be exercised by our members, but also from our supply chain as well. So it's really important that we have something that's in place that is very easy to understand and to follow, and it doesn't become a barrier or a challenge of working with us. It becomes simply an extension of good practice, which any organisation would want to be able to hang their hat on and really outline that they are part of that. We do feel that there is a lack of visible diversity sometimes across the industry, and what we're trying to do is to be able to look at our future leaders and tomorrow's talent to ensure that there is a statement that we all do work towards, and that actually we live and breathe in. It's not just words on a paper, that actually it becomes part of day to day, and that's something that we really do embrace. And part of the association's 4 pillars of this year, one is resilience, one is innovation, one is quality, and one is ethics. And you know, all of us want to have good ethics in terms of standards, but also to be able to stand behind something that we believe in. So we feel it's more not so much of a challenge, but more of an opportunity, but also something that we're very proud of.
Yeah, sounds really positive. So what would you say have been the successes so far?
I think the evolution of our terms of ethics. I mean, we've always had ways of working or recommendation. This actually, for us to put it as a term of membership, helps us to really rubber stamp it, that, as I said, it's not just words on a piece of paper, that people feel proud to stand behind it. And when, you know, our members are completing RFPs or talking to their customers, to say they are part of something and greater than just one and united across the industry, we think is incredibly powerful. You know, people hold that badge with real pride to say that they're part of it, they're united. And also setting up the action group, the board, as Juliet mentioned earlier, that was a real positive for us. We had a next gen board, but actually when we reviewed what they're working on and who they represent, and they were recruited in those positions truly down to their experience and the passion that they brought to the association. But interestingly, when we look at it, they actually represent DE&I. So it was a very easy transition, and it's a welcome transition. But also we went out to members to ask, as we do for all of our action groups, so whether that's sustainability, whether that's social media, whether that's venue best practice, the code of practice review, we've got different action groups. We were overwhelmed by responses of people wanting to be part of that action group, which I think is really positive, very encouraging, that, you know, it's not just, oh, it's the only one left. We actually had to move other people onto different action groups because we were oversubscribed. So that for me is something that really is a telltale sign that it's not just a tick box exercise, it's a real passion for people.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you said that it's an organic process, so you change your sort of next gen board to perhaps look at this area. What do you think the future is for diversity, equity, inclusion? I mean, how do we keep the momentum going, and what's the end point? Will we see an end to DEI as a sort of a separate badge?
Yeah, I think, you know, for us, one of our strategies this year was very much more about wider industry collaboration, and we think it's absolutely key, not just for this subject, but just in general, to have more of a united voice. And obviously we absolutely support BVEP and that partnership which you mentioned earlier. What we set out at the beginning of this year, and we've achieved and we're still achieving, is things that we come together with other industry associations and representing such key critical subjects. that we're not just doing it on our own, that we're actually encompassing and reaching out to others. So we've done 2 series now where we're working very closely with EVCOM. One was on mental health and one was on International Women's Day, and we put in spin on International Women's Day to again make that more inclusive. But just looking at best practice and how actually, if we are running events or we are getting key messages out, how can we come together with other like-minded industry partners to help us to really strengthen that voice, because we can't do it alone. It's such an important subject. It's certainly, you know, we don't see this as it's on our agenda this year and next year it won't be. We've been championing, for example, mental health across the industry since 2018, and something we're so passionate about that we just don't see